Hey guys, how you doing today? Uh, Thought I would try filming this way this time. Hey, give it a wide cinematic look, so you can really see that tree in the back, see the car in the back there, the entranceway. How you guys doing today? Oh well, we got some party people out here. It's actually quite lively on the streets out here right now. I just walked by a group of people who were doing what looked like to be a social distancing concert. Lots of people trying their best to enjoy themselves during these troubled and trying times. Um, the thing that's been weighing on me today is for the last little while, I haven't actually talked about the qualities of the death cult. And for a little while, it kind of had faded to the back burner. The reality that we live in a system in which there is a death cult. The death cult has taken over America without question. It has not yet fully taken over here in Canada, but its influence is very strong. And I started to believe that capitalism itself was a death cult. I turned that corner when the proposition was put on the table that workers should go back to work at the height of the pandemic for the sake of the economy. That the economy has been structured in such a way that human lives can be sacrificed as long as profits are generated for corporate and wealthy interests. This means that it is a death cult, and that there are members of the death cult who are death cultists, without a doubt. And I've been dwelling on this idea for a long time. Like, here in Canada, that's the Conservative Party in a nutshell. They don't care if you die. They don't care about you at all, right? They care about their profits themselves and their profits for their corporate donors. They have no moral interest outside of deceiving you that they have a moral interest so that you'll sell yourself to them. They'll tell you anything, right? They'll hold a Bible, they'll grab a Quran, they'll grab the Vedas, they'll quote Martin Luther King Jr., they'll quote Gandhi. They'll decontextualize any historical moment that has typically been rendered sacred in order to turn it into profits for themselves, because that's what a death cult does. And one of the major things I've really been noticing that I want to talk about is how the death cult communicates what life should be, right? I think that there is definitely a sadistic element to the death cult, that they must derive a certain degree of pleasure from the misery of other people. And I think that really is embodied in the way they communicate about how the world works and how things should function. Certainly how they believe the world works, and certainly how they believe things should continue to function. That and they'll say it of things that they don't apply to themselves. So you'll notice that it's only rich folks who are saying things like, you gotta work harder and earn it. Of course, they're born into a lavish situation where they have all of this wealth and prestige sort of foisted upon their shoulders, right? So of course they're going to say, you need to work harder to the people who are working for them. You have to earn it to the people who are working for them, right? That obviously what they're going to say is to the people who are generating their wealth for them by exchanging their labor for food and shelter, while the capitalist class steals the rest of the productivity, is work harder, right? And this just flows into the mantra of the death cult. And what's interesting, and you'll notice, like, there's been an inversion of what is real through the libertarian line that has definitely infected the death cult and has definitely infected the larger society, right? The idea that taxation is theft, but taking the surplus value of your labor is not, to me, is a complete inversion of what is real and what is actual. If you're a multimillionaire and you're complaining about taxes, you are detached from reality and you need to come back to earth. If you're a billionaire complaining about taxes, I don't understand why you are, because you don't get taxed. Because you've managed to rig the game in your favor, right? That's kind of the central idea. Like, nobody seems to bat an eye when a wealthy person wants to do what they want or come up with any kind of idea, right? The assumption is that they have earned that wealth, and of course it's completely unfounded, right? Take a look at the wealthiest man in Canada. The wealthiest man of Canada, his official title is the 3rd Baron of Fleet. He was born a billionaire. He has no right to any kind of meritocracy claim whatsoever. Literally, his existence in the world is through the divine right of kings. He owns the Globe and Mail, and of course he's very wise with how he's spread his wealth around, because he just owns small pieces of everything, right? He doesn't put all his eggs in one basket. He doesn't need to. And it's not him that's doing any of it, right? He just hires people to do this work for him while he does what he wants to do. And of course, no one knows what it is that he does, because why would he bother telling anyone? He wants to live his own life, and he has people hired to run his little kingdom for him. And yet I'm supposed to take seriously that the path to wealth is actually through hard work. It's certainly not through money manipulation. It's certainly not through stock buybacks. It's certainly not through just having the government give you money, right? Which is, like, if you look down in the United States, they're printing trillions of dollars every week and just handing it over to corporations who are then making any kind of claim to some sort of meritocracy. It's a total joke. It's a complete farce. And like, here in Canada, like, Toronto just entered stage 3. It's going to enter stage 3 rather this weekend. And we're talking about putting kids back in schools. And down in the States, it's much, much worse, right? They're still going crazy down there with the COVID. But this is all part of the death cult, right? And ultimately it flows into a very fascist worldview of kind of social Darwinism, right? Where it's survival of the fittest. The people who COVID kills were meant to die, and it's the strongest who will continue forward. It's not being clearly stated. Like, I'm yet to hear anyone in the death cult actually make this claim, that they no longer value human life. They don't care about, they don't actually care about this individualism argument. They don't care. Well, actually, they do care about the individualism argument. It's just that you're meant to survive on your own steam or your own merits, I guess, that's what they would call it. But of course, it's just a gamble. Nobody knows who's going to live or die, right? And so it's just kind of a throwing it all to God and basically saying, well, if you die, it's because God wanted you to die. And washing their hands of the consequences and washing their hands of these things and taking this extraordinary fascist position, which is who dies, and who survives is stronger for it. And it's not being said yet, but I'm sure it will be. I'm sure that's the argument that they're going to start saying, that like the strong will survive. And it's this idea that exists within the death cult that the only way to find purpose or meaning is through pain and misery and suffering. That if you enjoy your life, enjoyment is weakness in the death cult. That if you are enjoying yourself, you're somehow weaker. And if you are enjoying something just for what it is, well, that must somehow be hurting the society. Like when I was coming up, I was told over and over again that video games make people more violent. And now we know the opposite of that is true, in fact. That it turns out it was people who are violent in the first place, right? Humans are violent. And video games actually help them focus that violence, deal with their own kind of underlying sense of aggression. It would be like saying, like, martial arts make people more violent. Like, no. It just, martial arts allow people to focus the innate existence of violence within themselves in order to focus it away from something that's harmful, and at least in the case of video games, into something that's neutral at best. Or at worst, I should say. Because I actually do think that video games, like, it's odd to me that chess, for example, is seen as something that, oh, well, superior minds will do chess, and oh my goodness, no one disrespects a chess grandmaster, right? But if somebody had that same level of skill and that same level of ability in, like, League of Legends, right? Well, we're all just going to roll our eyes and think less of them. Or even if they drew out that same level of enjoyment, right? As long as it's not causing any difficulty for anyone around them, like what's the concern here? But it does seem like you have to justify your enjoyment. You have to justify seeking pleasure. Like, and I think that's true even in sex. The way our society views sex right now, right? It's all tied up in high levels of sacrifice and high levels of suffering and difficulty, and you can just get canceled so easily, and everything is just so high pressure, and nothing is relaxed or easy, right? And this happening, like it was literally a generation ago. We were in the free love movement. It was literally a generation ago. We had, like, people being, all you need is love, right? And now, like, there's this masochistic sadism that exists in the society where, oh, yeah, that was a fucking moment in time. That was a fucking moment in time. Just like this, a nice moment in time. And if you dare pause to enjoy yourself, or if you dare try to enjoy yourself, you're going to get stepped on. And I actually think that flows into just people don't really even know how to enjoy each other any longer, or people don't even know how to provide that level of enjoyment, or to enjoy each other's company really any longer. That there's this, you have to share your misery is what it is at this stage. Like you have to, the people who are closest to you are the ones who are willing to share the most misery, it seems to be the case. And if you actually attempt to live in a world where, you know, you surround yourself just with lightness, then people are going to look down on you. That, like, oh, you just, like, I've been called lazy. I've been called all kinds of names because people don't respect how I go about my life. But I work a full-time job at a multi-million-dollar store. I see no reason to tolerate any more difficulty than that. And I find it odd that other people put that on their back as well. Why are we working so hard to make this life harder for ourselves? And that really does seem to be part of the ethos of the death cult. That if we begin to glorify hardship, if we begin to glorify suffering, right? If we begin to glorify suffering, then we will accept it. And we will accept that, oh, well, this sure, I'm going through this period of difficulty and suffering right now, and everything's hard, but certainly there'll be some payoff, or there'll be some shift. Oh, ice cream truck coming through. Speaking of spreading joy, right? Speaking of spreading joy, ice cream truck coming through. Yeah, what a beautiful job that must be. I hope the person doing it's actually making any money doing it. Isn't just some kid. Yeah, I just think that we need to focus on enjoying the time we have here. That I think the capitalist class is really caught in this death cult behavior where they want to spread, not only spread misery, but glorify misery. That those who have gone through hardship are better than those who have not. And then they'll pretend as though they are the ones that have gone through hardship. Well, I'm wealthy, so obviously I worked, right? Meanwhile, you actually look at what they've done and you find out that they're essentially two-bit petty con men. People like Kevin O'Leary, right? Kevin O'Leary is just a two-bit petty con man. And I don't even know why I'm bringing him up. He's not really relevant anymore. But if you actually go to his Wikipedia page, right? He's just a con man. And he's just run a series of grifts on people and managed to find themselves in the right position at the right time. Just grifting people. And most of capitalism is just that. It's just running grifts on people. And yeah, I just wish that we would give it up. I wish that we would just say, like, okay, yeah, life itself is built with a certain level of suffering, right? We don't need to glorify that. It's not something that we need to stand and say we're better people because, we're being ground down in our old age and then to our deaths. It's not something to glorify, it's just what it is. And I just wish that we would think, wouldn't it be nice if we lived in a society where things were easier, things were safer, things were calmer, and there was no judgment for that. There was no judgment for that. Just you are able to exist in the world and walk around the world and live in the world without having some kind of odd ideological backlash that tells you because you're not self-flagellating yourself and sacrificing yourself to a capitalist class that you'll never meet and doesn't care about you, that somehow you're a lesser person. And I think that is sort of the mantra and the ideology of the death cult, that they really are very interested in ensuring that your misery is glorified, because if it doesn't hurt, then it isn't real. That's definitely what they're going to tell you. Oh, if it doesn't hurt, it isn't real. No. Anyway, I'm going to go enjoy myself. I am not going to succumb to this ridiculous misery that we are being sold and constantly peddled. I'm going to go pet my puppy a little bit. Have a good time, have some smiles, have some laughs. And yeah, probably tell a capitalist to fuck off, as everybody else should. Alright. Good luck out there, guys. Oh, and like, share, subscribe, right? That whole thing. If you made it here, you might as well. Bye.